Now, I'm doom scrolling through YouTube at 2 in the morning. I'm just bored. And I happen to stumble upon this video made by MMA Guru. Now, judging from MMA Guru's past history, I thought this was more of a prayer video, a little bit of a cope session if Makachev happens to win, as well as just a hateful Dagestani rant. But at the same time, though, I watched the video and then I realized, wait a minute. Why is Islam Makhachev getting away with hooking the opponent's glove so many times? Right? Because prior to watching this video made by MMA Guru, I did know about Islam Makhachev's tendencies to hook the ground, hook the glove. I'm sorry, but I didn't think it was like a frequent thing. I thought at best it was like a 1 or 2 time example. Right, Craig Jones kind of broke this down a couple of weeks back, and I'm like, all right, like I'm pretty sure that JDM's gonna be prepared for it. Right, he has Craig Jones in his corner. He's gonna be able to find ways to mitigate that. But at the same time, though, when you watch through most of Islam Makhachev's high profile bouts, you're starting to realize that this is a common occurrence, and not one time has Islam Makhachev been penalized for it. Right? For example, the Dustin Poirier fight. Right? Islam Makhachev in the fifth round is trying to clinch up with Dustin Poirier in order to land some elbows to the face. After he landed a beautiful 1-2, fair enough. But at the same time, though, Dustin Poirier, as he's trying to separate himself from Makhachev in the clinch, look at what Makhachev's doing to Dustin Poirier's left arm. Like right there, you could see Makhachev hooking onto Poirier's left arm, but then the second that he circles out, Makhachev immediately lets go and then pulls the high guard. Right? And now I understand this wasn't the reason as to why Poirier lost. It really wasn't. All right, this sequence had nothing to do with the finish that Islam Makhachev got. But it's just so blatant. All right, Keith Peterson was calling Islam Makhachev out during this fight, and I'm not gonna play the audio because I could get copyrighted for it. But still, it this is a very common occurrence, and the fact that not one referee has even given Makhachev like a hard warning, it's kind of concerning for this upcoming fight with JDM. Right, we even move on the Volkanovski rematch. Islam Makhachev once again in this position where Volkanovski has the underhook, and Volkanovski is trying to establish some sort of dominant position in order to either control Makhachev in the clinch or possibly break away. Now, look at what Islam Makhachev is doing throughout this entire sequence. You could see Volkanovski trying to use his left arm in order to punch away at Islam Makhachev. And here is Islam Makhachev. He's trying to hook. Look at him. He's hooking the glove of Alexander Volkanovski in order to bait out some sort of judo sweep, because that's what Islam Makhachev typically does once he grabs the glove. Now, again, this wasn't the reason as to why Islam Makhachev won, but once again, here is a referee blatantly staring at Islam Makhachev, hooking his opponent's glove, and nothing is done about it because cheating is legal in the UFC. We even got a couple of examples here, all right, made by Alpha Masculinity 25. I don't like that name, but shout out to this guy for like getting some clips. Here is Alexander Volkanovski in the first fight with Islam Makhachev. Right, same position, and you can see once again, as soon as Volkanovski's trying to use his underhook in order to press against Islam Makhachev up against the cage, Islam Makhachev's trying to relieve the pressure as well as stop Alexander Volkanovski from using his left arm by grabbing the glove. Right, and this is what Islam Makhachev does: baits Volkanovski to stay in the clinch. Now Volkanovski, fair enough, got away from it, but Islam Makhachev right after that timed the knee in order to hit Volkanovski in the face. Like, it just gets to a point where we gotta start calling this a signature move, right? You can even see this back in the day. You know, when he was fighting Arman Tsarukyan has his left arm trapped, and Islam Makhachev in this position is repeatedly throwing knees up the middle, which forces Tsarukyan to use his right arm to try and block the knees of Islam Makhachev. And after he sees Arman Tsarukyan reach out with his right arm in order to block the knees, here's Islam Makhachev hooking onto the glove of Arman Tsarukyan in order to get this beautiful sweep. All right. Now, I know why Islam Makhachev does this. Islam Makhachev is primarily a sambo slash judoka guy. I think his judo is the best aspect of his game. But the problem is, all right, judo and sambo uses the gi, and yes, you can grab the sleeves of the gi. All right, that's perfectly legal in sambo or judo. It's not legal in MMA, yet for some reason Makhachev just keeps getting away with it. Does it look slick? Yes. Right? Are these all of the reasons as to why Islam Makhachev is the pound for pound number one fighter on the planet? No. But at the same time, though, this gives Islam Makhachev a big advantage that nobody else can really replicate. Right? And it's a big advantage that involves cheating. So I'm afraid for JDM on this one. And before we go, right, here is Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira. Now, this might be the most blatant example of this, all right, because in the first round, this was pretty close, but Islam Makhachev is up against the fence. Charles Oliveira using the underhook to try and gain some sort of dominant position against the cage. And look at what Islam Makhachev does, right? Islam Makhachev heals the left arm of Charles Oliveira and then baits Charles Oliveira into prolonging the clinch by repeatedly shooting knees up the middle. And as soon as Charles Oliveira tries to retaliate, look at this beautiful sweep from Islam Makhachev, right? I can appreciate the technique, but at the end of the day, in MMA, this is illegal. And that's my whole point about this video, all right? I'm not going to use this as an excuse or as to why JDM lost to Islam Makhachev, right? Unless it's blatant. I'm not going to be the guy to say, oh, this invalidates Islam Makhachev's entire career, all right? Because he has been able to beat guys without this, all right? Renato Moicano, Dan Hooker, Bobby Green. Like, those are all opponents that Islam Makhachev beat pretty soundly without having to glove grab. But at the same time, though, why is Islam Makhachev repeatedly getting away with hooking his fingers into the opponent's gloves over and over again? Right? This is technically illegal. And that's the other thing, too. We give slack to other fighters regarding grabbing the glove. All right. Charles Oliveira did it one time against Dustin Poirier in their fight. Right? I don't recall a time Charles Oliveira did it after, but people still kind of mention it to this day. Michael Chandler cheating in almost every single fight. Fair enough, people do call him out for it, but we don't call out Islam Makhachev for cheating in almost every single fight, right? Because he wins. This is one of Islam Makhachev's biggest of weapons. It's not the main reason why he's winning these fights, but he's helped Islam Makhachev establish dominant positions in order to score some rounds, possibly get some dominant control, and possibly find a submission as his opponents are freaking out because they just got judo flipped. All right. And at the end of the day, JDM, he's going to have to deal with this. Islam Makhachev fans are not going to acknowledge this at all. They're just going to call you Islamophobic if you call this out, especially with the referees repeatedly not calling this out. Because over the past few years, Islam Makhachev, not one time has he been penalized for grabbing the gloves of his opponents. Okay, that's gonna be it for this video. All right, this is a quick recap video as to Islam Makhachev's fights prior to UFC 322. All right, it's gonna be in a couple of hours. I'm still gonna be excited for the fight. I still believe in JDM winning. I really do. But this is going to be kind of concerning. But otherwise, though, leave a comment down below what you guys think. Are you guys excited for UFC 322 regardless? And outside of that, I'll see you guys in a couple of hours for my recap video. Peace.